You're listening to Bad Dog Agility, bringing you training tips, interviews, and news about the great sport of dog agility. And now, here are your hosts, Sarah and Esteban.
I'm Esteban.
And I'm Sarah, and this is episode 150.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Back on Track. Dog agility is a demanding sport and can be difficult on the body, both the dogs and the humans. Back on Track specializes in dog blankets, beds, and wraps that keep muscles warm and reduce the pain in joints. If you've got a nagging knee, calf, or ankle injury, Back on Track's human products can help get you back in the ring. Visit Back on Track at backontrackproducts.com.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by Elite Science. Unlock your dog's full potential with a unique competitive edge solution, 1-TDC. 1-tetradecanol complex is a patented blend of unique fatty acid oils designed to safely and effectively keep joints and muscles at their best to maximize performance and shorten recovery time. 1-TDC is the next generation of fatty acids and is used by many current and past national agility champions and world team members. All of our listeners will automatically qualify for a great 1-TDC special offer by purchasing online at BDA1TDC.com. That's BDA, the number 1, TDC.com. Today, we're very excited to welcome back to the podcast Lee Gibson, and today we've brought Lee on the podcast to talk about the Global Judging Program. Welcome to the podcast, Lee.
Hi there. Yeah, good to be back.
Well, let's jump right into it. Why don't you tell us what the Global Judging Program is?
It's something that Greg and myself have sort of put together. We've been running it for about a year and a half now, but we've been talking about it for sort of a while before, really. Obviously, with the events like the WAO, Greg had to sort of spend a bit more time looking at judges and getting judges for his event. I was lucky enough to do crafts. It's the last time I was on this podcast, so we had a good chat about judging then. And sort of all those things got us thinking, and obviously we're good friends, and we sort of put our perspectives, brought them to the table, and decided, you know, I'm very much I do a lot of judging, and I have a lot of experience and sort of information that I believe can help other judges. And Greg organises events. He organises UKA, UKI, and obviously the WAO. And when choosing a judge for big international finals, even the UKI Open, which I went to judge as well, he needs to be able to trust those judges. And he's always asking me for recommendations and things like that. And we just decided that actually, why is it that we've got so many competitors in our sport? I mean, if you look at Great Britain, for example, we've got thousands of competitors. We need a lot of judges, but when we actually have to pick, it's not so much about what is a good judge, but it's judges that we can rely on and judges that we believe are consistent and sort of take a pride in their judging in the same way that perhaps I do with mine. Then there's actually quite a small pool of people. And I think it was that we just decided that, well, instead of criticizing it and just saying, well, there's not enough judges, let's actually try and help them. Let's bring our knowledge, let's bring our experience, and let's bring the skills and try and help them. So that's really how it came about. One day we just sat down together and said, right, how could we present this? What could we do? You know, are we going to make a video? What are we going to do? So we decided to come up with a global judging program, and it's comprised of various modules, which all fit together. I suppose you could say, like, you know, if you're at university, or sort of like a weekend course. And we present lots of different aspects. We present them in a variety of ways. And we want to empower the judges, and we want to give our viewpoints. We want to give them the tools to then, well, relish judging, really. I think you've got to have a passion to judge, and you've got to want to strive to improve. And sort of we present the information, and we encourage them to take that information and kick on themselves. So that's sort of the ethos of it and the idea. So that's how it came about. And like I said, we've been running for about a year and a half now. We've run 3 or 4 weekend seminars, global judging seminars. We've got our first follow-up seminar in January as well, and that's for participants who've come through the weekend, the global judging weekend seminar. And then we are sort of going to now bring in an assessment type weekend, but obviously you have to have been on the previous course. So we're running the first one of those in January, and we've got 2 or 3 more lined up in England, and we're quite excited because it looks like we'll be going to Canada this summer as well. to take global judging truly globally, to use a really good cliche there. But we are, and that's really great because it obviously then allows global judging to bring in more experience from other people as well, to make it a resource that we think is beneficial for judges of all organizations and all over the world. And that's really the ethos. We're all in agility, whether we do whichever organization we do, whichever organization we compete at or judge at. It's about making better judges for all those organizations. It's not about one rule book. That's not what makes a good judge, knowing the rules in a rule book. So yeah, that sort of gives you a little introduction to what we've been doing.
I really like that because it's an entirely different focus from what people are used to. People are used to focusing on the handling, on the obstacle training, on that aspect of agility. Yeah. And no one really thinks about the judges except maybe for the big events where they have an intuitive grasp that they want to have the more experienced or quote-unquote better judges there at these big events. But how does a judge become a great judge? How do they get better? And so I like that now you're kind of leading this focus, kind of this shifting attitude toward judging as something that is changing, it's evolving, it can be improved. So let me ask you, how then do you take a judge who's a complete beginner and how do they become, a great judge?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose this is something I can identify with perhaps more than not most, but quite a lot of people, simply because, I'm relatively young in the judging, the age of judges, and I was lucky enough to start judging at the age of 16 in the UK, and gradually I worked hard at it and I got experience. I learned a few hard lessons along the way as well. And so I feel like I made that journey, but I have gone through that. I have come from being the kid in the ring with a tie halfway around his neck, up until judging at Crufts and in many different countries. And this week as well, I'm off to Olympia to judge the huge Olympia finals in the UK, which is a massive, that's a huge honour, and got to get the dinner jacket ready and everything. It's proper, it's as stylish as it gets, that. So, I feel I can bring those sort of experiences to the table and know what it takes. There is nothing that beats experience, but you've got to be prepared to go in the ring as well. I was lucky, I think, when I started, that I had a relatively confident attitude and I believed in what I was doing. Even I hadn't had much training. We had no judges training when I started, but I had my head was screwed on and I felt I could do a decent job because I'd watched a few judges. What Greg and I are trying to do with Global Judging Program is present the information so that the new judge sat on the course can actually think, okay, I see some of the issues with judging, but I also see how I can go about dealing with those and how I can be prepared. One of the modules that Greg presents is expectations of a show manager, and he looks at it totally from the show manager's perspective. What am I expecting from my judges? When I send an email, I want a reply. When you send your courses, I want labels on my courses. When you ask for equipment, I need an equipment order. When you turn up on the day, I want you to be prompt. And, it might sound simple, but actually we present that as a module, and it's those key things that people perhaps haven't looked at it from the show manager's perspective or seeing it from the competitor's perspective. If another module, obviously, with refusal clarifications and that lenient call when as a judge you go, oh, go on then, they can have it, they can be clear. Okay, well, great, that competitor's benefited, but those 15 others that ran before that didn't have a spin right before their rear cross left-hand turn, you've actually done them a disservice. You've actually said, well, guys, this is just as good. So it's actually presenting that information, and I think it empowers the judges that we can bring that information to the table. They can then see it and really kind of feel it, feel that they've got the knowledge and actually go out there head held high and then put their interpretation, their courses, they can bring their ideas and they can stand by them as well. So I think it's looking at it from that perspective, as a new judge now, if you've only had the Kennel Club training in Britain, I mean, it's improved, but it relatively revolves around the rule book, to be honest, and a brief bit of course designing, I believe. it's probably not, like I said, knowing the rule book, knowing how high the dog walk is, or knowing how many weave poles there are and the length of the long jump. Yes, it's important, but the reason we carry a rule book in our judges bag is actually, I judge at 5 different organisations. I can check that with my tape measure. But actually knowing to be consistent and to be good at your course design and to know what constitutes a refusal and not, I think those are the actual skills that define the great judges, probably from the judges that, that they judge and we don't particularly remember them, and they don't particularly remember that judging appointment either, So we want, as competitors, which we are, we want fair, consistent, high quality judges who take pride in their judging. And there are some judges in England who I look at and I'm like, oh great, she's judging today or he's judging today. They're brilliant judges because I know they have a real passion for it. So I know the course is going to be good. I know they're not going to be shabby marking. I know they'll be fair on everyone. And that actually, I like that. That excites me. I see a judge stood there with hands in the pockets, looking, daydreaming, and they've put 17 obstacles in a course and there's absolutely no creativity and they're letting dogs spin and do all sorts. I'm thinking, oh, well, what's the point? It's basically a training run, what's the point in this? That everyone's clear basically. So I think, it's trying to give those new judges a real passion and a real desire, and feeling like they go out onto that field, global judging almost, they've got that behind them. They've got all this information. They can go out there and, I said, we're all going to make the odd error as a judge. It happens, but it's how we learn from that and keep developing. We don't want one judge to have one error and be put off from judging. I personally believe that happens to judges who are fast-tracked through the various judging exams. All right, off you go. Competitor power. I think we talked about this when I was on back in 2015 or 14 when I judged Crufts. And we said competitor power now, to being able to stand up there and realise what's actually going on, So it's that. It's empowering those young judges, those new judges, giving them the confidence to go out there and to do a good job and take a real pride in what they're doing.
I really love what you've done with this because we've talked a lot with handling about kind of the globalization of handling, about how you can learn from so many different instructors all around the world and get that different viewpoint.
Absolutely.
And we've also talked about how the vast majority of agility across different handling systems, the vast majority of agility is the same. And I feel like we have the same thing going on here with the global judging program. It's a globalization. It's a learning from people from all over the world. And it's a recognition that the vast majority of judging skills are the same no matter what organization you're in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It is about that. It's trying to unite judges from all around the world, from all the organisations, and we are genuinely trying to raise the standard, but raise it together, and we make it very clear from the outset that it's not about one particular organisation. It's not about British Kennel Club or UKA. It's developing judges so that they can go across all these organisations. Yes, of course, there's tweaks in the rule books. We mentioned that earlier. That's why I've got all those rule books in my judging bag, because I can't remember all the little interpretations. I can't remember the start line procedures of every single one. So I check them. That's the sign of a good judge, and sort of that's what we tell the participants on the global judging program. So yeah, we want to really globalize it. We want to get ideas and feedback, and it's fantastic for us because our next seminar in Norfolk, which I think is happening in March, I haven't got my diary in front of me now, but anyway, it's in 2017. We've got it. We're holding it in the UK, but we've got, I think, a judge from Germany coming. We've got 2 from China flying all the way over for it, and a French judge, I believe, as well. So, getting that sort of those judges embracing it as well, they can actually bring cards to the table as well. They can bring experiences and they can bring their input and the other participants on that particular global judging. I think that's brilliant. I mean, what an opportunity for them as well, because we'll all be working as a group on the various modules, working internationally. So I think that's absolutely fantastic.
And I think you mentioned Crufts, you mentioned the WAO, and I think that we're seeing so many more of these international events that people are enjoying going to, and some of them have no affiliation with any particular organization anyway.
Yeah.
And so as we have more and more of these events, and those events are looking for judges, it does kind of bring that forward of what makes a good judge when you take away the organization. You know, what are you looking for to bring somebody in to do, or these world team tryouts courses where we're starting to see countries bring in international judges to give that extra input into that whole process. And even things even things like the AKC Invitational, which is an AKC event. They have brought in other judges like Anthony Clark to come in and judge. So we're seeing even the organizations kind of reaching out to some of these judges to get a little bit of this kind of cross-pollination.
Absolutely. I mean, from my own experience, you know, being asked to go and judge in different places, and I was really lucky to go to Singapore last year, and I did a little judges day for them as well, because they wanted to learn, and I mean, that shows initiative, taking judges over, and I mean, agility's changed such a lot, hasn't it? I mean, with we say like social media, that's actually one of the topics.
I thought that was really interesting when I saw your kind of preview video that it highlighted a module on social media. So tell us about that, because I think that is very keen of you to put that in, because it's a difficult topic.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, social media has revolutionized the way we learn and we watch, agility, but all sorts of sports, and the way we communicate as well. The fact you and me can bounce off messages off each other while, you know, you're driving to the school and I'm about to set up for a lesson on the other side of the world. You know, it just shows you how easily we can communicate now, you know, even though it took us weeks to get this date sorted. But you know what I mean? We can communicate that easily now. And so social media actually brings everyone that much closer together. It means information can be shared at the click of a button. You know, it really is like that now. So obviously it allows people to learn, and it has many, many benefits. I can share my courses to people all around the world. You know, it's not just through Facebook, but that is definitely the platform that people, I think, can relate and identify with the most, probably listening to this podcast today. Obviously, we've got a range of great podcasts as well available, you know, such as this one. But the information is shared so quickly. And as a judge, that actually can be quite intimidating. And the angle that we come in on is that I do believe competitive power exists. And, I mean, I actually lead the social media module. It's one of mine. And competitive power, not just in the ring, you know, where we see sort of competitors and, oh, that's difficult, I want that changed, and blah, blah. But also on the internet now, it's very, you know, it's very, very difficult for a judge to go home on a Saturday or Sunday night and to see possibly pictures or comments regarding to a show that they were judging at, or perhaps a class they were judging, you know. And the thing is, I've got some examples that I take off good old Facebook, and the thing is, when I was looking for these examples, I didn't have to look very hard at all. It was so easy to find pictures of courses. Obviously, I got some examples of the flat tunnel as well. Just that's obviously been banned now and suspended from a lot of organisations. But still, actually, people taking pictures of it and putting them online. And actually, you know, half of them I looked at it, I thought, there's nothing wrong with that at all. You know, it's just them looking to, they've got a little bee in their bonnet or a campaign about something. So, you know, but imagine the judge is standing there. Judge is going to see this later. And, you know, is it a surprise that judges don't want to judge anymore? Well, not really, if they're going to be ridiculed in public on such a, you know, an open platform such as social media and Facebook. So, yeah, I try to educate the judges, and I try to tell them about being responsible, about obviously what they post. I mean, one of the sort of jokes I have with the classes is that, you know, if you're judging any event on the Saturday, the last thing people want to see is sort of pictures of you topless on a bar at 12:30 in the morning, you know, the morning before your judging appointment, you know. So again, being tasteful, being respectful, thinking about what you post. But equally, it can go much more than that. You know, I've seen examples of judges actually really stipulating the handling style that they like to see. So I've designed this course because it can be done brilliantly with X, Y, and Z handling system. you know, and again, I've seen examples of this, and it's like, well, really, you know, is that the role of an official in any sport? You know, does a referee of a football game think, well, I'm going to favour this team because they play such good passing football, as opposed to this team who just lump the ball upfield? I don't like that. You know, you can't really have that bias as a judge, but it shows you that this is going on. People are seeing this, and there's actually some sort of quite well-known judges. So I try to educate our students in social media. It's got many benefits, but it's also got many potential things to be aware of, really, and potential problems if you mismanage it. That's kind of the angle I come in on, and I just want people to be aware, and I want them to be responsible. And obviously, if they've been through the global judging program as well, you know, I want them to think about what they post. You can use social media to brilliant effect. So it's just about being aware and how perhaps, you know, saying the wrong thing, it can actually be seen by a lot of people. And also it's about educating the general community as well. And, you know, I'd like to just say everyone listening to this podcast as well, because there'll be thousands of people listening to this. All right. The next time you perhaps have a bad judging decision or, you know, something that's gone wrong, just think twice about what you post, because I've seen so many examples criticizing a judging call. Well, you know, there is a judge at the end of that. We're not paid to judge. I believe you might get a few bucks in America, but we don't get anything in the UK other than 30 quid for our fuel, you know, and that can put people off. So it's about educating both sides and just realizing the effect it can have. So I think that's probably a good summary of sort of the angle that we take on social media and being responsible with its use.
It's almost like just like in handling, there's a mental game aspect of agility. There's a mental game aspect of judging, and there's almost some coaching that needs to go on for judges in terms of
absolutely
of being able to blow off some of that, meaning to let it roll off your back, because you can't control other people and you can't control Facebook, and you can't control social media and how they use it. So you can only control like your reactions to it. But yeah, it's a rough world out there when you're in any sort of position of being seen, you know, high level handlers, high level judges. It's something that everybody has to deal with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think, the way in which you deal with any sort of feedback, obviously it's good to get good feedback, you know, and you get nice comments on your course plans and videos and that. And to be honest, it's really nice to see, you know, if I'm flying back from a weekend judging, I go to Finland quite a lot. So I did the champs in the summer, and I was seeing videos pop up for the next couple of days where people tag you in the video, say, might not have even gone clear, but really enjoyed the courses. And that's great. It's really good to get that feedback. But obviously if you get any negative feedback, I suppose drawing attention to it as well. I actually tell the judges that if you go wading in there trying to defend, you know, what you perceive to be right, the chances are somebody's posted that who's pretty annoyed about something, you know, that they've failed, so they are annoyed. So whatever you say is probably not going to make them happy again. They're just going to be wading back in with more, you know, more abuse or more insults, or general unhappiness, you know. So one of the rules I say to judges is, you know what, you stand by your decisions. If the handler's done something to give you a decision to make, it's not your fault that you have made a decision. Whatever that decision is, you've been given the opportunity by, well, more likely incompetent training or handling, but they've given you a decision to make. So as a judge, you are in your right to make that decision, rightly or wrongly. And if you look at it that way, you can always throw it back then. And that, I think, that is one thing that actually really empowers the judges. There's a little nugget there for everyone listening.
Right.
But if you think of it like that, it can actually nullify a lot of judging discrepancies.
Right. The phrase that we always used to tell people is, don't make the judge think. Right? It's basically what you're saying. Don't make the judge think. Make it so obvious that you hit a contact or didn't refuse or whatever that there's no call to be made. One of the things
exactly it.
Right. One of the things that I think, so when handlers think about judges, I think some of the things they think about are course design, because they want interesting courses, and course safety, because everybody across every organization wants safe courses. And that's really a perfect element for something like the global judging program, because safe is safe and unsafe is unsafe, you know, no matter what organization you're in. Right. So I like seeing that there's a module on how to set up a safe course.
Absolutely, yeah. We go into depth in course design. And I just want to make this clear as well. Like, Global Judging Program is not sitting listening to Greg and I talk. I mean, who'd want to listen to Greg talk all day, for example? But it's not about that. It's about us. We have interactive sessions. We have video sessions. We work a long time with the model equipment as well. So Greg and I are sort of deconstructing the courses that are submitted in. We're making recommendations. We're talking about judging path. It's all in 3D, so we can write on the judge's path. We can talk about angles. We can talk about safety, judging position, being in the position to see things, and also potential, just making judges aware of the placement of off-course equipment as well. So it very much is an interactive session, and all the modules we try to present them in a variety of ways. And obviously the course design one, we in the venues where we've got an outside set of equipment, we go out and we label up the skills, and we really try and make it as real as possible, so that then judges, let's be honest, a lot of judges are handlers, I suppose, they really get an idea for safety, what's perceived to be safe, and things that are obviously dangerous, and just little hints and tips as well. There's little things you can do that really actually, little rules that, I have plenty that I follow. For example, one of them is that I'll always offer a straight route and approach to a contact. For example, if the dog's coming round onto a complete wing wrap on a jump, and onto the dog walk, let's say they've got a straight line, and I'll always make sure my courses offer that straight line. But I'll also tell judges, well, you've offered a straight line, which is, it's obviously the best way to go, but it's not your fault as a judge if some incompetent handler comes along, takes their dog the long way round, the stupid angle way, and just runs off without any consideration. Dog falls off the middle of the dog walk, everyone goes, oh, all round the ring. Well, actually, judge has done nothing wrong there. The course is perfectly safe. Incompetent, poor handling has resulted in the dog falling off, and it should be the handler who takes a long hard look at themselves, okay, and about their decision making and their training, because I do think that judges are the first ones criticised for any incident that happens. And if you actually analyse it, it isn't always nothing the judge has done wrong. The judge has set up a perfectly fair course. So it's these little tips that we get the judges to think about. Whereas if that jump is perfectly in line with the dog walk and they're wing wrapping it, then, well, both routes are offering an angle onto the contact, and maybe that's not so clever, because then you do open yourself up to the fact that, well, the handler has to correct the dog's line. They have to straighten them. So you're asking a handler's skill there. And, that then, well, I think it's not a good position to put yourself in. Offer a straight approach to every contact. Okay, whatever the skill test they're coming from, you've given a line, and then you can stand there and say, well, I've offered you a quicker, faster straight line. You chose to go the stupid way. That really is up to you. And, it sounds quite sort of, that we're quite bullish about it, but I think you have to be as a judge, and you have to have that almost sort of like an arrogance, but not in a way to put people down. It's just, you've designed something safe and testing, and then now you are going to judge it fairly for everybody. So that is your role. That's your defined role for the day as a judge. The competitor day, it's over to them to negotiate it, and to do it. You shouldn't get emotionally involved. You're simply there. And I think if you've got that sort of firm and focused attitude, I personally think you'll do a better job judging. So that's what we try and tell the judges, and we try and educate them in that way, just to be aware. Don't let the problems happen in the first place. Don't offer up courses that people can turn around and say, well, you know what, whichever route I take here is potentially dangerous, because then you've got a problem. So
related to course design and course safety, there's been something that's come up a couple of times in our practice, and I wondered if you think about these things, and that is optical illusions that happen on course, where a certain layout of obstacles, the path is perfectly safe for the dog, but for some reason it creates some sort of optical illusion, like, for instance, like broad uprights with weave poles in the background, or, things like that. it seems like that might be kind of on the fringe, or kind of the next evolution of course design, is figuring out what makes an illusion. But do y'all talk about any of those type of things?
I think it's very subjective. I mean, the thing is, everyone can have an opinion of what they feel to be safe. I mean, as long as this is where I think you talk about potential safety or potential lines, and sort of making judges aware of, that they've got the route of their course and they're looking at this jump, jump X being a potential trap, but they haven't noticed that jump Y is also, the wing of it actually, almost protrudes onto the dog's path. So I suppose being aware of stuff like that, just a general aware, or where you place the seesaw. You don't want the end of the seesaw being sort of up where the handler's going to run. The dog's path might be perfectly safe, but if you're making 300 handlers run past the end of a seesaw, well, again, there's probably going to be an accident there sometime. I think so as you talk about the illusions or the anomalies that come up, it does happen. I saw an example very recently, an event in England where a perfectly good course had a tunnel in it. And for some reason, all the dogs kept coming out this tunnel. There was nothing unsafe about it. It was, maybe it wasn't the brightest of lighting in the venue, but, 60-70% of the dogs just came out, and they were experienced dogs. But on the flip side, 30% dogs went through with no problem. So, obviously the 60% were like, well, it was obviously a problem. 30% were like, well, there wasn't a problem because my dog did it fine. Sometimes I think you see it with the dog walk, perhaps outside rings, I suppose, when the sun's going a bit low, right, and the dogs go running up, and they stop at the top of the up plank. Maybe they think it's a seesaw, maybe they just don't know, maybe there's something in the real background. And, it's a difficult one, that, because I think as a judge you have to really take stock of the situation to decide what you're going to do, if anything.
Or I guess another way to ask the question is, or a different kind of illusion that we might see, is colors. So as a judge, I have, when I've put courses together, I grab the tunnel that's the right size, the right length, and I don't even really pay attention to the color of the tunnel. As a judge, have you ever looked at your course and thought, you know what, I don't want a blue tunnel there. I want a yellow tunnel there. Is there that level of realization of these optical illusions from colors and layouts?
I don't, I'll be honest with you, it's not something I've ever really thought of, simply because you get asked to go and judge somewhere and, you're using the club's equipment or hired equipment.
Right, you have what you have, right.
You have what you have, yeah, and I think a lot of show organisers would be pretty annoyed if I was running around asking for a red tunnel. They've only got blue. But yeah, I can certainly see what you're saying. I mean, you've got the anti-slip tunnels now with a black sort of, and the light on those, and this tunnel from this instance I was talking about was particularly dark. So, I suppose it's something to be aware of, and it's not something that we specifically said, because you are given what you're given, like we said, but maybe you can think about lighting and you can think about sort of the position of the sun. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want injuries to dogs or handlers. We want to have a good testing, fair, fun competition. So, if there's little things we can do. But I suppose the way I'd come back at this, probably the best, relating it to global judging, is we have a section on scenarios, and we pressurize the students, and we make them make decisions with a made up scenario that they pick. Well, we give them, and they have to make a decision. And some of them, it's required to make the judge make a decision. Some of them, there's actually no decision to be made. Some of them, it's from the made up scenarios, there's an error been made before the class started. So, we sort of make them play it out. We throw a few ideas around. We make them give a viewpoint, and then we also have a general learning objective. And I think out of all those scenarios, and Greg and I do them sometimes as well. We pick one out at random, and we have a bit of a bit of banter with each other about making the right decision, or what should the judge have done here, because there's always going to be 2 points of view. So a competitors and a judges, I should just add. So the thing is, it's actually giving those judges the confidence that they can stand there and make a decision if one needs to be made. If they do need to stop the class, then they feel within their right and they feel confident to do so, because it takes a lot of, a lot of guts really to have to do that. I had to do it once at a show a few years ago in Northern Ireland when it was raining, and I had to be the one to say, I'm not judging in this anymore. The weather is too bad. Soon as I did it, 3 other judges also, yeah, we agree. We're stopping as well.
It's like starting a buffet line, right? Somebody's got to be first to go up to the buffet and get their plate of food.
That's absolutely right, yeah. I mean, everyone's thinking, come on, can someone just go up there so I can go and get my plate?
I make that my job, really.
I shall take this one for the team.
That's right.
But yeah, it definitely, so anomalies are always going to happen. Freaky things are always going to happen. It's just the nature of the beast with the sport. So I guess if judges can, hopefully take that experience from global judging and then they can assess the situation, not panic, not react too emotionally to it, but just think and make a considered, fair decision that they will stand by, then I think that's good, and I want to believe in the judges that they have, they feel that they can do that. So that's probably the best sort of response I can give to that, if I'm honest.
Right. So in kind of wrapping up this global judging program, is it the organizations that are bringing you in to give this, or is it clubs or individuals that have an interest in kind of spreading these ideas? Or, how are your different seminars being run and set up? Who's setting those up?
Sure. Some of them, Greg and I are setting up ourselves in the UK. We'll book a venue and we'll just open it up and people sign up with us. We've got a couple of clubs in the UK who've said, we've got a facility, we've got a classroom, and we've got some agility equipment. That's what we need. We need a classroom. It needs to be warm as well, because we're in there working on the various modules. So they say to us, we've got this facility, we want to do one. They say, okay, right, Greg and I we'll tell you what we want, and then they sort of sign up. They might have 10 students already, so then, it's sort of, we go about it that way. We had some interest from the actual Kennel Club of the Republic of Ireland about going there, which has been great, and we hope to do that later in 2017. And obviously going to Canada as well. Again, individuals with a passion, but we're actually going to tie that in hopefully with some UKI show as well, so we can make the whole thing more viable. And also judges can then come in and join in on that from all over, really. So it's a mixture. We've had contact from the British Kennel Club as well. I think that they've seen that we've got some good elements and some good modules, and they've been asking for more information on that. So we're hoping that perhaps we could help them as well and maybe collaborate somewhere. And we're really open and flexible because we are trying to do this because, we want to improve the standard judging. We want there to be more good judges. There are some good judges out there, but with the amount of agility that there is now, and you alluded to it earlier with, we've got so many international competitions now. We've got so many finals and big events. There's agility all year, whether that's a good thing, I guess, is a totally another issue. But there is and we need a lot of judges, and the expectation that a few judges can do all of that is not really, it's not good for the long term because competitors don't want the same judges every week. But we also need to make sure that judges who go to judge those big events and those pressured events are not scarred by perhaps a negative experience and then don't want to judge again. So we are trying to empower and embrace agility from all around the world, whether it be through individuals, clubs, organizations. We're really open to it, and we'll collaborate with anyone who wants to sort of think about hosting a global judging program to make it work and make it as beneficial for as many people as possible.
Well, we'll put a link to the Facebook group on the show notes page, and we'll put a link to the video as well, because you can kind of get a sense of what goes on from that video. I saw a lot of interesting teaching tactics going on there. And I think
absolutely.
Just for our listeners, the vast majority of our listeners are going to be handlers, not judges. But I think that the longer you are in the sport, the more you realize that it's like an ecosystem, and the handlers are influencing the judges are influencing the handlers, and it's all working together. And I really like hearing about that judging side of things. And we really appreciate you coming on and talking about this new program. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Always a pleasure to speak to the Bad Dog Agility podcast. Just like to take this opportunity to wish all the listeners a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Happy jumping.
All right, well, that's it for this week's podcast. We want to thank our sponsors, Elite Science and Back on Track, and also NTI Global. Visit shop.ntiglobal.com for the widest selection of dog agility tunnels for both competition and backyard training. Known for free shipping, more options, high-quality products, and low prices, NTI Global has got you covered. They also offer tamer and anchor weight bags, along with a full line of accessories and agility storage solutions. Need your agility gear in a hurry? Don't forget to check the in-stock selection. Visit shop.ntiglobal.com and use promo code NTIAgility5 for 5% off savings today. Happy training!
Where do snowmen keep their money? In a snowbank.